Hello, my historians. This is Wendy with AP History Help, and this is the AP History Help podcast, where you will learn everything you need to know about taking AP history classes, from skills to content, from historical thinking skills to themes in history. Whether you are taking or thinking about taking AP World History, AP US History, or AP European History, this podcast is for you. Be sure to check out the episode list and show notes to find the topics that you need help with. Engage with me at AP History Help on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube with questions that I might answer on future episodes. Today's episode will cover what a thesis is, why it's important in AP history courses, and how to earn it, and what some examples are. In addition, I'll give you my secret formula for developing a thesis statement that will guide you in writing your DBQ and LEQ essays. Any good podcast, essay, story, paragraph will tell you at the beginning what to expect from the rest of what you are about to read or listen to. And that is a thesis statement. A sentence or two that introduces the topic of the essay. But hold on, don't stop listening there. There is some nuance to what the College Board expects in order to earn that particular point in your essays on the AP History exam. But before we get too far along, if you haven't done so already, make sure that you listen to my last episode, which goes over how to get the point for contextualization on those essays, but also how to use context to help you learn history. If you didn't listen, you can just go to your podcast player, my website aphistoryhelp.com, or even to YouTube and look for episode 12 of AP History Help. That's right. They're all on demand for your listening pleasure. A thesis statement is not just something that you write for your AP History exam. Any well-written essay or paper should have one. But this podcast is called AP History Help, so that's our focus. The College Board tells you right in the rubric what to expect from a thesis statement when they say, quote, respond to the prompt with a historically defensible thesis or claim that establishes a line of reasoning, end quote. They then go on to say, quote, to earn this point, the thesis must make a claim that responds to the prompt rather than restating or rephrasing the prompt. The thesis must consist of one or more sentences located in one place, either in the introduction or the conclusion. In other words, your essay, you are going to defend what you say in your thesis, and you are going to provide historical reasoning. What does that mean? Simply put, first, you're making a claim that can be defended with historical evidence. Can someone disagree with your claim? Do you have evidence that will help you argue that you are right and they are wrong? Second, the evidence needs to be specific historical vocabulary or concepts that preview your argument. So if the prompt asks, evaluate the extent to which you enjoyed your birthday, your thesis would start out saying that your birthday was mostly miserable. Check in here. Can someone argue that your birthday was a wonderful day? Yes? Yes. Okay. Next part. Historical evidence that supports your misery. You know you'll write about the weather being cold and rainy, that you were sick, and that your family argued during your party. The only bright spot was going to lunch with your BFF. So in your thesis that started out with, my birthday was mostly a miserable day, you'll continue to say, due to bad weather, waking up with a cold, and family problems. But It had a brief moment of happy celebration due to my best friend. That goes in the thesis, and later in your essay, you'll explain and elaborate on each one. I'll give you some historical examples later. This episode is airing as the second semester is beginning for many of you, and if you haven't already done so, it is really time for you to start reviewing. That's right. If you are striving for a 5, you need to get a lot more serious about your preparation. I am so excited that my AP History Success Journal is now available on Amazon. Finally, I have set it up to be a user-friendly weekly companion on your journey to acing the AP exam. It is set up to help you focus on the important content that you are learning, the thinking skills that are covered, and most importantly, the opportunity to reflect on the overall process of learning and developing skills that you will need to ace the exam. There are many other little tips and tricks scattered throughout. I will put the link to purchase the Student Success Planner in the show notes, but you can also access it through the aphistoryhelp.com website, or head on over to Amazon and search on the words Success Planner for History Students AP, and it should be at the top of the search results. The thesis statement is worth 1 point out of 6 on the long essay question and 1 point out of 7 on the document-based essay question, regardless of whether you're taking AP World, APUSH, or AP European History. But it is the backbone of your essay. If you are making a claim in your introduction, you are then going on to argue that claim in your body paragraphs. And if you are establishing a line of reasoning in your thesis, you are supporting it with evidence that will be presented and explained in those body paragraphs. If what you state in your thesis statement doesn't match what's written in your body paragraphs, you're not going to earn that point. So herein lies my secret formula. Each line of reasoning that you establish in your thesis should become a topic sentence to a body paragraph. For example, if you said, due to the bad weather, waking up with a cold, and family problems, but a brief moment of happy celebration due to having lunch with my best friend, then your first body paragraph should begin with, the morning of my birthday, the weather was overcast at best, ending with terrible thunderstorms that knocked the power out. The rest of the paragraph elaborates on why that made it miserable. The second body paragraph would start, on the morning of my birthday, I woke up with a sore throat and a stuffy nose. Perhaps you would go on to explain how friends or family had been sick and you would hope to avoid it. But now that you're feeling this way, you had to cancel some plans. I could go on, but we know you're not going to write an LEQ about your mostly miserable birthday. It just makes for a good example that all of my history students should be able to relate to. I have started turning my previous episodes into blog posts. I talked about this in the last episode and why it might be beneficial. And now episode 2, which is about how to best prepare for an AP history class, is posted. Check out my advice, tips, strategies, all in written form. The link to the blog is in the show notes, or you can get there by clicking on the blog tab of the AP History Help website, or directly by going to aphistoryhelp.com/blog. Even if you're a regular listener of the podcast, the blog is a good refresher for older episodes. A great formula to follow to make sure you're getting both parts, the claim and the historical reasoning, is from Steve Heimler. It's simple but effective. Restate the important parts of the prompt because A and B. It was mostly a miserable birthday because of the weather and my family. Now, If you want a more complex thesis that will result in a more complex essay, you would be bringing in a counter argument. The formula becomes a little bit more complex as well. If you're interested in this, I'd recommend writing it down. It goes, although A, because A and B, therefore Y. Continuing with our birthday example, although I had a nice lunch with my best friend, due to the weather and my family, I ended up having a mostly miserable birthday. I don't want to get into complexity in this episode, but that is just a beautiful way to lay the groundwork for a well-developed thesis that turns into an essay that puts a big fat smile on that essay grader's face. And who doesn't want the person who's grading their essay to be in a happy mood as they read your essay? In the last episode, in referring to contextualization, I strongly recommended reading exemplars, well-done examples that earned the contextualization point. And guess what? The same goes for thesis statements. I would recommend reading good and bad ones that got the point and ones that didn't get the point. Ask your teachers if they have examples for you to look at. Or I would be very happy to share at least 5 DBQ examples and more than 10 LEQ examples of thesis points for each course. Again, when looking at the prompts, ask yourself, what would you write? Even if it's just a brainstorming session. And then look at the exemplars. In just a moment, I'm going to share an example of thesis statements from each course. But first, it's time for Wendy Teaches History. And this episode airs on Martin Luther King Jr. Day. I know, he's covered in APUSH, but not in AP Euro or AP World. But I'm going to make a connection that applies to all 3 courses. So it's fun fact time. Did you know that Martin Luther King Jr.'s real name is Michael? Michael King Jr. That's what his birth certificate says. So little Michael was born on January 15th, 1929. That's right, he would be 95 years old today. And he would go on to be one of the most, if not the most, prominent leader in the American Civil Rights Movement. Anyway, Michael's dad, who was Michael King Sr., went on this religious journey around the world in 1934 when Michael Jr. was 5. The journey had this tremendous spiritual impact on Michael Sr. Specifically, he gained great respect for the German monk and theologian Martin Luther. And here's that AP Euro and AP World connection. He came home and changed his name from Michael to Martin Luther. Now, he simply crossed Michael Jr.'s name off the birth certificate with a single stroke and wrote in Martin Luther Jr. It was not officially changed until 1957 when MLK Jr. was in his late 20s and already starting his civil rights advocacy. Okay, the last portion of this episode. I'm going to give you 3 prompts, 1 from each of the AP History courses, and let you marinate on them a little, and then I will share an attempt at a thesis that didn't earn the point, and then an exemplar that obviously did earn the point. I will type the prompts up and put them in the show notes in case you want to pause the episode and brainstorm a little before hearing the rest. Okay, let's go in alphabetical order. First, AP European History. From an LEQ in 2021, evaluate the most significant effect of the Enlightenment on European society during the period 1688 to 1815. Our first example of a thesis is, the most significant effect of the Enlightenment was how everyone started thinking differently. Once the Enlightenment happened, people started thinking more logically and looked for facts. Why didn't that earn the point? There's no historically defensible claim and no line of reasoning. And here's the exemplar. The most significant effect was the Age of Reason of the Enlightenment, which featured the breakdown of traditional concepts in favor of change and challenges to the government. The writer will go on to discuss the breakdown of traditional concepts and how they outweighed the change and challenges to the government. That's a point. Next up, AP US History. The prompt says, evaluate the extent to which debates over slavery in the period 1830 to 1860 led the United States into the Civil War. This is an attempt at a thesis that does try to establish a line of reasoning, but it's not really defensible, and quite frankly, it's vague. Here you go. Throughout our history, the U.S. has grown and expanded. Our culture tends to move with us as we go, but when the movement and expansion of slavery came into question, numerous issues arose. Kind of dancing around the point there. Now here's a nice complex thesis that hopefully turns into a nice complex essay. Although tangential debates over issues such as state versus federal power may have contributed to the divide between the North and the South, and thus the outlook on the Civil War, the primary cause of the Civil War was the tension over slavery. The counter-argument is the debate over issues of state versus federal power and how it contributed to the conflict, but ultimately they are arguing the primary cause was the tension over slavery. Our last prompt comes to us from the world of AP World History. It says, in the period circa 1450 to 1750, European expansion affected the development of numerous East Asian and South Asian states. Develop an argument that evaluates the extent to which the economies of East and or South Asian states in this time period changed in response to European expansion. This thesis does not provide a line of reasoning. Here it goes. In the period circa 1450 to 1750, European expansion affected the development of East and South Asian states. Why, yes, it did. But how? In what ways? And our exemplar, overall, rise in European influence heavily impacted the economies of East and South Asia. Many states resorted to isolating their economies from European influence, and manufacturing sectors drastically declined as people were exploited from other, primarily agricultural sectors. 3 points made, and lo and behold, 3 body paragraphs in the essay. Now, if you would like access to other sample prompts and responses, you know what I'm going to say. Contact me through social media or my website, and we'll set something up. Next episode, get ready for it. Documents are a big part of history, and by the time you finish an AP history course, you will have read and analyzed your fair share of them. We are going to look at them through the writing a DBQ lens, specifically summarizing them versus using as support, which is the difference between 1 point or 2 on the DBQ essay rubric. Hit that follow or subscribe button so you'll be notified whenever the new episode airs. Do me a favor, message me on social media if you have any questions or suggestions, or just to tell me you listened to or watched the podcast. I would be so grateful if you would follow me on Instagram and TikTok, or even subscribe on YouTube at AP History Help. I'll link to it in the show notes, or just search for me. If you subscribe, you'll get notified every other week when a new episode is uploaded. Whether it's social media or YouTube, you'll be able to comment, ask questions, and interact with me there. Tell your friends who are taking or thinking about taking AP History classes about the podcast. I'm here to help as many students as possible to be successful in the course and on the exam. That will do it for this episode. Don't forget to come to Wendy for AP History Help. And this episode of the AP History Help podcast is now history.